K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
To get up to like $68,000, my heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Hoorah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
Attention Patriots, Red Nation Rising Radio is about to begin.
Please return your Republic to its original position and prepare for takeoff.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy night.
It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll.
Welcome to Red Nation Rising Radio. Good evening, folks. Hope you're all doing well. We are here because of you. This show is all about you, your questions, your tweets, and it's your chat room. So get in there and ask us some questions. We've got Rachel Alexander from stream.org coming up. We're monitoring. Angela, thank you very much. And I'm Lou. And with me tonight's Jared. Say hello, Jared.
Good evening. How you doing tonight?
So we're doing pretty well, Jaron and I, considering under the circumstances. We hope you guys are doing pretty well. Thanks for getting behind us on Twitter as we go through a little bit of drama on our end with some news really kind of out of our control that got propagated on the web. And if you've been paying attention, you know that there's probably at this point, I think, maybe 15 blogs. Every couple of hours, Angela finds another one. So I don't know how many we're going to end up with in the end, but right now we've got about 15 blogs. Most of them are tied to major news organizations. I could name them. I don't think I'm going to do it on the radio, maybe before the show's over. But over the past week, since it happened, since Jared, you woke up in the middle of the night, or you were going to bed, and you were stopped by a notification that your picture was on Yahoo News. We've looked into this a lot, and the connections that we found are really scary, and most of them go back to, well, I am going to say it. It's in our press release that we issued today. It is on our blog. We name the authors of the blog. We give you guys their Twitter addresses. Do with them what you will. We're not asking you to do anything, but they put Jared's face out there. We're going to at least put their public contact information out there because they put it on all of their blogs. There's no reason that we can't put it on our blog. So we've done that. Yahoo ABC was one of the organizations that several of the blogs are tied to. Time Warner, AOL, Huffington Post. And curiously enough, they're popped up two publications that are owned by a Russian businessman that's a pretty powerful guy. So they call them oligarchs, but pretty much it means that we're the richest people in the country and we run it. Wow. I was shocked, and I got to tell you, I'm a little bit unnerved about it. I hope maybe Rachel Alexander can come on and make us feel a little bit better. You think, Jared?
Yeah, well, we just got a message from her about an article on the stream with the Russian connection. I'm sure she's going to have some information, at least I hope so. And
I think that's what bothered me about it, all along, is that, I had seen that story. I don't know if their publication was the first place that I saw it, but I certainly saw the story. I knew that it was out there. We all live in a world where dark Twitter is a real thing. We've seen it happen. It's going on with another friend of Rachel's, I think, right now, which is Ali Akbar. And, there's just some really, really nasty things and really nasty people on Twitter. But, we've all seen it happen. And we're going to talk about this a lot more. Thank you to Rachel for giving us some time to talk about these issues tonight, because we're all kind of wrapped up in them. We want to make sure that you guys understand them, and we want to make sure that we understand them and understand what's going on. So I think, Jared, we need to take a break, and we will be back with Rachel Alexander in 2 minutes.
K98Talk.com, a leader in internet radio. So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
I like America because it has good people.
A spirit that you can't keep down, a fire inside that'll never burn out. If you are the owner of an American heart.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we are expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at sales@k98fm.com.
You didn't build that. Stop. You didn't build that. You didn't build that. What are you yelling about now? Hey, sit down, guys. I'm almost done. Come on, sit down. I'm on your side, man.
Cause we'll put a boot in your ass. It's the American way. Hey, Uncle Sam, put your name at the top of his list. And the Statue of Liberty started shaking her fist. And the eagle will
Welcome back to Red Nation Rising Radio. We are here with Rachel Alexander. Rachel, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. Thanks for coming on, and the timing's kind of crazy because I think you might be a little bit of an expert in what we're dealing with, or maybe the closest thing that we can find. I think you read a little bit of our blog today, or maybe figured out a little bit of what's going on with us, and particularly with Jared's photo.
What a freaky story! Yeah, it sounds like you guys are being targeted because you're finally like big enough that they can use you guys.
Well, thank you for making me feel like not so much of a conspiracy theorist, because this thing has bothered me from the beginning, and I think my reaction to it in the beginning might have taken some people off guard, but being trained in crisis communications, you just don't let like something like that slide without responding to it. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? I know your website is stream.org, correct?
Yeah. That's my,
and you have it's a great site and aggregates some wonderful conservative news. But you have an article on your site about and it's the same story that I heard, and I can't remember if I read it first on your site or not. I wish that I could, but it's the same story about the I told
the
Jared
Russian
last
news.
week. Yeah, the kids
The
in
Russian
Russia.
media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Well, basically, the Putin has been running this secret troll factory where he pays these bloggers to go and leave blog posts strategically all over the internet on key websites, CNN, Yahoo, you name it, and as well as comments. And there's like 400 employees, I think, working, around the clock doing this. And what they do is they try to push out their agenda that way, and they're trying to influence American politics as well. And it sounds like what happened with you guys, you could tell that it was Russians suddenly interested in the, same-sex marriage issue and then the American flag patriot profile, trying to, confuse the two and make them look at odds. It sounds like Russia wanted to make it look like possibly this big American conservative group, Red Nation Rising, is behind this and saying that, the two things are at odds. And I mean, that's what it looks like to me based on, what you guys have uncovered. You guys did the research, and I think they're essentially trying to use you, and you caught them.
Well, good. Wow. Every now and then one doesn't get by you, right? So so you think that I might really be onto something there, huh?
You might really be onto it, and the reason I say that and where I speculate is because they've been caught doing this to so many other people. If you just Google, Russian troll factory, you can find all the different instances where they've been caught, and the common denominator is all these Russian IP addresses that you can see on the site leaving comments.
Yes, and the interesting thing about the stories about the American flagging people's profiles, because those were the premise of the stories, were that most of the comments would actually be pro-American, very patriotic, more conservative voices. They were way outnumbering whatever the troll factory could put out if that was the case. So they couldn't keep up with us, which is, I think, a really great thing. I think that's something to celebrate.
Well, what was interesting, and you guys said that some of the pro-patriotic comments on the Yahoo article were getting deleted, which makes me wonder, does the troll factory, were they flagging the comments as, inflammatory or something? Was that how they got Yahoo to remove them?
Possibly like they do on Facebook when they, bring the reporting gang after you and they all report you for spam to get you suspended. I guess that's a possibility, right? It's a possibility, and that's a question I think that the major media outlets, the broadcast media groups own these blogs. They need to answer that question, and the FCC needs to make them answer that question, because if they don't, does the First Amendment really mean anything?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, they'll tell you, well, the First Amendment means you can go start your own blog somewhere else. We get to do what we want. This is our private media site. I mean, that's what they'll say. And the problem is sites like Yahoo, they all lean to the left. So trying to get them to give conservatives a fair shake it's tough, but I like the fact that you guys are going aggressively after them and you are making them respond. If you would just, did one blog post and that was it and you never followed up. But one thing I really admire about Red Nation Rising is you're one of the most active groups out there on social media, and you keep it up, you keep the pressure up. I mean, you might actually get somewhere. I see you, demanding that this reporter who wrote the deceptive article, something happened to her, that, Yahoo takes some kind of action, and I think there's a good chance you'll get somewhere.
Well, I hope we get somewhere or somebody gets somewhere. The only way that we ever will is if we don't give up, because too many people have sat by for too long and let too many things happen to them, or been kept down in some way. It's really hard. It's hard for a single person, and I think that you hit on something in that we feel like we're able to do this because we're thousands strong, and that thousands might be on Twitter, but we've seen in the past week how we all rally behind each other with, CJ and with this and with Jared. And I mean, all of our state accounts pretty much flagged their profile when this happened to Jared. So we do stick together when we have a way to do that.
Yeah, that's important, because once they're able to isolate you and you have no support is when they're able to take you out. And that's one reason that, folks should join a group like yours. And again, like you said, if we don't start stopping this and nipping it in the bud now, they're just going to come after more conservatives. I mean, I just can't tell you, like you said, we saw with CJ and Ali Akbar, yesterday on Twitter. I mean, they went after him so hard. They went after Ali for sticking up for CJ. CJ's that young 12-year-old black kid who's been doing those awesome videos challenging Obama, and they're trying to shut him down. And so Ali Akbar comes to his defense, and they're trying to shut Ali down. And so, if you remember, use the hashtag #StandWithAli as well, because we're trying to rally around him. Because, they'll come after him, and they'll do horrible tactics. They'll try to smear him. Next, they'll take him to courts, because the courts are, as we know, dominated by liberal judges. And, you've got the Department of Justice under Obama, which has got liberal prosecutors. So the left knows they can beat you in court. And so, you got to fight back. You got to be tough. You got to let them know you're going to fight back. And I know we're probably jumping ahead, but you mentioned one thing about how conservatives can protect themselves on social media like Twitter. And, I always stick with this one rule that has served me well, which is never put anything out there that you would be worried about seeing on the front page of the New York Times tomorrow.
Yeah, I kind of had to live by that rule in one of my corporate jobs because the legal department said that's how we were to operate, and we called it the Wall Street Journal rule, but that's a great rule to live by. If you can't tell your mom, then you probably shouldn't say it.
That's the second rule. I don't use that quite as much just because my mom is so conservative. She still chews me out for things I put on Facebook.
That's so funny. Yeah, my mom was very much a Southern belle, so if it wasn't beautiful and flowery, it probably shouldn't come out of your mouth as far as she was concerned. But you didn't really jump ahead. I think that's a really good point, and this is where you get to find out how brilliant our followers in our chat room is. There was one comment about Russia and conservatives and the Ukrainian conservatives and the conservative support in the United States for the Ukrainian conservatives or the Ukrainians in general, and if that possibly has an impact on why the Russians might be anti-American conservative.
Absolutely. I mean, the Russians are doing everything they can to portray everything negatively towards the Ukrainians. And so, they'll use the U.S. to make it look like, we like Russia but hate Ukraine. I mean, they'll put out all these false narratives, and people are thinking to themselves, it's false, because you're like, okay, why do Americans care so much about, how much we love Russia but we hate, the Ukraine? I mean, if you think about it, it really doesn't make sense, because as Americans, we know that Putin is engaging in a lot of the, former authoritarian behavior of the former Kremlin. So when you see those kinds of things out there, and especially if they're in like broken English, because the Kremlin trolls don't know how to write English very accurately, then you can be suspicious.
Yes, when the grammar is bad, the chances are they're not necessarily American, and if they're, they'll be upfront with you if there's a good reason for that. If they're a recent legal immigrant or something like that, like some of our friends are, they'll definitely be upfront with you about where they're from, but they'll try to hide if they're not. And their pictures, and there are ways to tell. Let's talk about the ways to tell when you're dealing with someone who's fake.
Do you mean fake in terms of they're one of the Russian Kremlin trolls, or just anybody in general fake?
Talk about those guys. I'd like to hear about. I mean, I think a lot of our followers know what to look for as far as, fake accounts and deleted tweets and images that don't seem to go together and that kind of thing. But yeah, the Russian trolls in particular, do you know what to look for there?
Yeah, generally they all pop up like fairly recently. There'll be a bunch of them that pop up at once. They'll use the same words and phrases over and over again. They'll like repeat each other. They'll use the same exact hashtags. Usually something in it won't make sense. They'll make fun of Obama for looking, they say he looks like a monkey or something. I mean, they're really cruel what they do. And so you'll just see a whole bunch of people saying things like that in broken English. And then what else? They use the same languages, and it's usually the poorly written languages that you're just like, something doesn't quite sit right with me. I mean, you can tell it's just the same person repeating it over and over again. They'll assign one troll to leave, 250 posts in a 3-hour period on one topic. And so you'll see that same thing over and over again in different places, but with, slight variations.
So pretty much like a lot of the American posers and trolls, but it's just Russians behind it.
Correct. Yeah. And they do. I heard lately they have started mapping their IP addresses. Like apparently when they log in, when they get in there, they log onto this IP masker. So we're not able to trace them back as easy that way anymore. But where you catch them, it's where they leak and they say stupid things, like they might accidentally throw in a Russian word or the broken English. I mean, there's tip-offs that way.
Right. So we do have one question about the thing that's happening with Red Nation Rising. If they're using false and inflammatory language or information, and they're using Jared's image, does he have a legal recourse there, or that's a question out of the chat room, or is that something better left just for to not necessarily speak on?
Was this the image of Jared's face with a flag over it?
It was a screen cap of one of his Facebook posts where somebody asked him where his flag came from, and he said, "Here, you can use this to make your own. I made my own."
Yeah, off the top of my head, I think it's a gray area whether you can, Facebook is considered public images or not. Again, let's say he's got a public profile, or like Facebook, usually your profile photo at least is public, even if you have the rest of it locked down. So there's probably an argument that it's not. But where I think he might have a legal argument is, and I'm trying to remember the gal's article. I know that the reporter rewrote it after the fact, which might save her from a lawsuit. But I think if she said that he created this image because in retaliation to the gay marriage decision, that's where he might have some legal standing.
Yeah, when she misrepresented what he actually did or what he said. So the brilliant comment earlier about the conservatives wanting to arm the Ukraine and help the Ukraine was from Dread Pirate Ron, and he gives us a brilliant comment just about every week. So thanks, Ron, for that brilliant comment. I didn't call you out for that earlier. And a question, everyone in the chat room I think wants to know. I'd like to know about Sheriff Joe and what he's like.
Yeah, I was his attorney, and I've been friends with him for many years. He's actually the real deal. He's sharp as a wit, funnier than anything. He lives up to his larger-than-life reputation. I really love the man, but I will tell you, they're coming after him hard. They aren't going to stop until they take him out, and I mean, they're going to make it so he can't run for re-election. They won't stop trying to prosecute him. They're going to make him pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for racial profiling, which, if you think about it, is the stupidest thing. Obviously, if you're the police, you're going to pull over more illegal immigrants than the rest of the population because they come to the country, they don't get driver's licenses because, they usually have not been allowed to. And so they don't know the laws, and they have less money, so their cars are more likely to be broken down and have taillights out. So it's really bogus what they're doing to him, and I will tell you, I was his direct attorney for 2 months back in early 2010, and as a result, they've been coming after me for 6 years now. I'm now in my 6th year of fighting them legally, simply because I was his attorney for 2 years. For 2 months.
And why is it okay to profile for serial killers? The FBI does it all the time. There's no one ever raises a question when you say we're profiling the serial killer because most serial killers are white males. Am I off base? Is that crazy?
Yep. There's certain things that are sacred cows, and it's perfectly correct. And one of them is, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're more likely to have, brown skin, and that's something that's politically correct that you can't go after unless you're a Republican, of course. Republican Hispanics are completely demonized and, I believe, targeted even more than, white conservatives, just like black conservatives are. That's why they went after that poor little 12-year-old CJ so hard. If you'd been a 12-year-old white kid criticizing Obama, they wouldn't be giving him death threats like they did to the poor kid.
Or even if he had been inarticulate, the fact that he is such an articulate kid at such a young age, he's a black conservative, it scares them to death.
It threatens them, and it destroys their lives and their mantra that the Republicans are the party of whites. They want to keep pretending like that's the image, even though it's not accurate. So anybody who doesn't fit it is viciously attacked, because once they realize that the average population knows that Republicans have just as many minorities, it's going to destroy the Democrats' base of support.
Yeah, their base and definitely, like you said, their mantra, right? So once, you take away the rallying cry, half their platform is gone once that perception is gone.
Right, and I find it really funny. I just saw an article today that Bernie Sanders, the old white guy running for president against Hillary Clinton, he is increasingly catching on her in the early primary states of Iowa and New Hampshire, and the reason he is because those Democrat parties there are the two of the three whitest Democrat parties in the country in those two states.
Wow. The things that you don't know, the things that just aren't put out there for everybody to know. So many perceptions are just accepted without even question, but yet little things like that are really important, nobody knows.
Right. The mainstream media, which is left-wing biased, like the New York Times, would never run a story like that. I found it on this obscure political blog called 538.
Oh, I know that blog, but you can track the information, it's right, the statistics are out there, but nobody ever looks. We're going to have to cut to a break for just about a couple of minutes, Rachel, and we'll be back to do another segment with you and ask you some more questions to ask you about the presidential campaign. Great. So we'll be back in 2 minutes.
K98Talk.com, a leader in Internet radio, So grab your seatbelts and take the ride of your life on K98Talk.com.
This is JD.
And this is Stacy.
Join us Tuesday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern, for Game On. Remember,
lock up the children and the old folks.
Game On, the home of liberservative conservatism.
Where no one is safe and no one is spared, not even the hosts.
Oh, that was supposed to be a spin cycle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. We love you anyway. Right round, baby.
Self-monitoring
right
Ebola
anyway.
radio strikes again.
Anyway.
Anybody see the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? Where's the host monkey? For God's sake, I need an antidote. Just do your rant and let's pop out of the segment.
Has to do with
Find us on Twitter at JD and Stacy.
You're listening to K98Talk.com. The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely. Let's get sad again.
All right, we are back with Rachel Alexander, and I just want everybody to know, if I miss a cue tonight, blame it on Randy Arrington. Kerosene Cowboy, you're going to make me miss a cue. There he goes, texting me again. You're going to make me miss a cue. So, Rachel, you still with us?
Yeah, hi.
Okay, so one of the blogs that we made, the name of the blog, it's owned by Tom Inc. It's called The Pink News. And our founder, Jim Lysat, would like for you to know, well, it's a joke. What do Sheriff Joe Arpaio and Red Nation Rising have in common?
I've been reading the chat room. I already know the punchline.
Oh, well, thank you for telling me that you already know. A lot of people won't do that, but yeah. So everybody that's listening and not in the chat room, I'm going to give you the punchline. Chef Joe makes his prisoners wear pink, and Red Nation Rising made the pink news. Ta-dun-dun. That's the punchline. So we are back with Rachel Alexander, and we're going to get serious for just a moment. So we heard a lot about we talked a lot about privacy and Twitter attacks and troll attacks and Russians. And is there anything in your mind? I mean, do you believe that on some level the type of people that are attacking CJ and Ollie which are more, the anonymous and the Black Panther, the militant, kind of anti-American militants that we have in the country, do you believe that they're tied together? Are they totally separate and it's just coincidental, or are they just bouncing off of each other independently? Like, how do you think any of that is tied together, or we'll never know?
I think it's all of the above. I mean, based on the research I've done on the left, some of it's coordinated, some of it's top down, other is random. Some groups work together better than others. We might not ever know exactly with the attacks on CJ and Ali, but I will tell you this. I bet that they are being funded. There is an organization out there, whether it's the Tides Foundation or one of those lefty, George Soros, millionaire organizations, those amorphous gray money types of organizations. They are paying left-wing bloggers and writers to do things. And, there was an expose a few years ago about it, and it came out. And, they pretend to be real journalists, and they pretend to be, but they pay influential people. So, people are being paid on Twitter to do both anonymous accounts and tweet from their real accounts. I think that's what's going on.
Wow. Well, and I'm not really surprised. I definitely wasn't surprised to hear you say it's a little bit of all of the above, because it usually is, right? So you have a lot of different ideas, and the truth is somewhere in between. So that's not really that surprising to hear, I guess, if you think about it that way.
Yeah, and you know, another thing that really shocked me is I have one left-wing friend on Facebook who's very active in congressional campaigns and, you know, the Democrat Party, all that stuff. And he actually said to me the other day, he said, you know, if I came clean with all the dirty corruption and illegal activity that I've seen go on, I could totally turn this party in. So he admitted that it's just phenomenal, the level of sleaziness and corruption that the left is doing.
Yeah, I actually learned that when I was a child. A lot of people that know me know that I'm, you know, connected. You can't choose. You can only choose your friends and not your family. You know, so my family is connected to the party or to the Democrat Party, and even as a child, I saw things that. Now when I look back on them, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. And I don't know if that's why my parents were conservative and they raised me as a conservative or not, but it might have something to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, they keep saying that, you know, Republicans are just as crooked as Democrats. Well, you know what? I wrote this article last week about another, you know, Republican, Rick Rendy, former congressman, who the left went after and destroyed and put him in prison for 3 years. Well, the reason these Republicans keep getting in trouble is because the Democrats trump up fake things, and then they use the complicit legal system, which is controlled by the left, to destroy these people's lives. And, you know, it's not that Republicans are as corrupt, it's that we don't control the legal system. And I mean, to me, it's just been disgusting to see that they're finally to the level that they're putting us in prison.
Yeah, and that's when the threats have escalated to action, and that's when you're at your, you know, you're most vulnerable. Really, I mean, they have people in a very vulnerable situation, and once they know that, they just become emboldened to do more. It's just like, you know, that you'll see a decision for, you know, if you see a decision go for pro-choice, the entire Planned Parenthood community just blows up into this big celebration, and anyone who questions their, you know, anyone who disagrees with them is vilified. And we saw it again with the SCOTUS decision with gay marriage, and we see it over and over again with certain issues.
That's right. And they target people who are easy first. So, you know, once they get a victory against someone who's poor and not influential, then it's easier to go after the next person down the chain. And like I saw that when they went after Sheriff Joe Arpaio, what they did is they took out those of us who were, you know, poor, defenseless. I mean, I didn't have any money, and, you know, I was pretty much, no one knew who I was, not that they really do too much now, but no one knew who I was in 2009, so I was an easy target, whereas other people around Sheriff Joe who were, you know, millionaires who worked for him, they were left alone. They didn't even have bar complaints filed against them. So that's their modus operandi, and I've always said that's what they're going to do next with the same-sex marriage decision. You know, whether you agree with the same-sex marriage decision or not, there is some truth that it's going to be enforced rather heavy-handedly against people who might disagree. And what they're going to do is they're going to start with some small little evangelical church that doesn't have a lot of resources, and they're going to go after that, because once they can get that small church into compliance, then it's easier to go after the big denominations, the Catholic Church, the Mormon Church, etc.
Right, and yeah, I'm Catholic, and a lot of times we think, well, you know, governments can't really touch us, but then you look around and you realize, well, yeah, they could. They could probably pretty easily, and they have, and it's you know, just they can pretty much. I worked in a regulated industry that was regulated by the FDA, and learned at a very young age that certain regulatory agencies and the government, when they want to, they can do whatever they want to do. And there's nothing you can do about it except hand over your $1 million and say thank you very much.
It's terrifying. I mean, I've worked for government half my career, thankfully not anymore, but, you know, I worked for the county attorney's office, 2 different ones. I worked for state government as an assistant attorney general, and I can tell you it is terrifying. It is out of control with all the lefties who control it, and they've got unlimited taxpayers' dollars in their pockets to do what they want. so once they come after you, you've got no shot. I mean, you're up against millions of dollars, and how are you going to fight back?
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes back a little bit to some of the things that I'm getting in our chat room. And I think it's your conversation. They're wanting to know a little bit about some of the dirty tricks that were actually pulled by the GOP with regards to, and you said, they'll go after a little small church somewhere. Well, when the Republican leadership decided they weren't happy with some of the votes that were cast on TPP and TPA, they went after little Mark Meadows first from Cashiers, North Carolina. And I don't know if you've ever been to Cashiers, North Carolina, but, I mean, you can throw a rock from one side to the other.
Oh, don't get me started. I'm friends with Congressman David Schweikert, and he's been retaliated against by, the establishment in Congress and for bucking the establishment. And what he says, it's not even about the conservatives versus the liberals anymore in Congress. It's about the establishment versus the reformers. The establishment is these old, rich, guys who have been there forever, and they are too in love with their money, their fame, and their power, and they will do anything they can to keep it. And so anyone that threatens them, they will come back and just destroy them. And so that's what's going on there. Now, I wrote about TPP and TPA a couple times, and I can see both sides of the story. But to punish the ones who oppose the fast track because, they weren't being very forthcoming with the text, I like Representative Isa's approach, which was he just went and published the whole thing and stuck it out there and says, we're not going to do this in secrecy. If you want to fast track this, then everybody better be able to read it. That's the only way this is going to happen.
I like a lot of what he does, actually, and it doesn't surprise me that that was the approach that he took. I didn't see that, but it's really interesting, and he seems to be one of the good ones, right? You never really know because you're not in the halls with them and you can't overhear their private conversations, but he seems to be one of the good ones. So let's talk about the presidential campaign since I brought up the good ones. Who are what have you seen? And I know you've been writing about it and you've been researching it and watching it a little bit. Who have you seen and what's interesting about this 15 or 16 candidates that we've got?
I know, it's crazy, and we still have Walker and Kasich haven't even officially announced yet. But what strikes me as interesting about the race is it's not completely a done deal for Bush. At this time 4 years ago, Romney was in the lead, but he was much more in the lead than Bush is. So I think it's going to be a lot tighter. Walker has consistently been second in the polls, even though he's one of the only two that hasn't announced officially yet. So to me, it just looks like Walker's got the next best chance after Bush. And as most people probably know, the reason Bush is doing so well is because he's only having to share the moderate wing of the Republican Party with a couple other people, like Lindsey Graham and George Pataki. So, you think that 30% wing, you only have to split that with three other people, that's easy to get at least 10%. Whereas everybody else in the race, there's 11 other people in the race, they're mostly just sharing that 30% of the conservative base. So they're each getting 3% of the vote by the time you split that all up. So it's really artificial that Bush is the front runner. It's it's just kind of unfortunate and kind of unfair to those of us who are more conservative because we're just so divided. Now the good news is we have so many conservatives in the race. I mean, it's incredible. But the bad news is we're hurting each other. And so I mean, I got to be honest. I kind of hope some of them drop out and just leave it to somebody like a Walker who can actually beat Bush if most of the rest of them drop out.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's so many, and it's really so confusing. And sometimes I wonder if some of these guys saw the last campaign and they're thinking, well, I'm just going to get in and act stupid and make the rest of them look better.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have you wondered that, Rachel? I know you've wondered that at least once, right?
Of course.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to wonder if some of them are in it just for themselves to, like, make money and a name for themselves. And, I mean, the one entertaining thing will be to see how many pull Rick Perry. I mean, it's not like I don't like Perry, but look what happened to him in 2012. He had a couple, faux pas during the debate, and it pretty much, destroyed his chances of winning. And I mean, Trump is going to be an absolute train wreck. I mean, he's going to get crucified in the media by the time he starts participating in the debate.
I think that happens a lot with Republican candidates, right? So it's the other thing about having 16 or 17 people in the race is that who is the media going to go after? So they're going to have to pick a couple and go after them really hard, which I think that they've been doing a little bit. Lindsey Graham just had a horrible interview. I don't think it was an important interview, but it was a horrible interview. They're constantly after Trump, and he constantly gives them more reason to go after him. But they're it's like divide and conquer with the media almost.
Well, and they're going to artificially limit who they have to go after by these debates. CNN and Fox News are having the first 2 debates in August, and they've already agreed they're only going to let the top 10 in the polls participate. So that's going to cut out people like Graham and, that way they don't have to worry about taking pot shots because they're only going to participate in some secondary forum that less people are going to, pay attention to. Now, the one thing that bothers me about this, and I'm not the gender type, we need a woman for president. I'm not even that type of person, but it does cut out Fiorina. And that just is a little bothersome because, like, we only have one woman in the whole race, and you're artificially just going to cut her out of this arbitrary number at 10 people. I mean, it just, something rubs me the wrong way, and I don't think they should be limiting it to 10 people. If you've already got 10 people, why not have 14?
Well, yeah, and I, you took the words out of my mouth, especially with Fiorina. It's not just about, it's not just about how she, having the woman in the race, or it's about how much better she would make that debate. The debate with Carly would be so much better than the debate without Carly.
Well, she's extremely on the offensive. I mean, she's going after Hillary more than anybody else has. And, people say in a general she would be very formidable because we're so politically correct now that for one of our Republican male candidates to go after Hillary, he's going to be constantly called sexist and so she brings an advantage with her. And so, I do think people should, consider her seriously. I like the fact that she's actually not that liberal on social issues. I kind of thought until I researched her that she was pretty liberal, but she's actually not bad if you're considering, she's from California.
Yeah, really. I mean, well, but that's where you find like the conservatives from California have spent their entire life fighting to be conservatives and be heard. So they're, and you go from secretary to CEO, you've spent your whole life fighting anyway. So it's really kind of, conservatives that come out of California sometimes are really good conservatives. Back to Daryl Issa again. So here's a question from another question from our founder, Jim. Are we better off voting for a Democrat than a rhino or Republican in name only? So that if all HE double toothpicks breaks out, it happens sooner and not later. So basically, let the revolution that they're trying to force happen so that we can clean up the pieces.
I disagree, and here's why. I see the argument, but there's a couple reasons why. One, look at some of these recent Supreme Court decisions. Obama got to appoint 2 Supreme Court justices. They've both been very left-wing. Even a rhino Republican hopefully would not have appointed, crazy left-wing justices. Secondly, yes, this country is probably going to hell in a handbasket, but I don't want to speed it up because, one, we've got our kids. I don't know about you guys, but I've got 4, teenage girls, and I really don't want them to have to go through hell in their lifetime. And secondly, with conservatives going to prison and things now, I kind of want to live out my life less likely that I'm going to end up in prison over the, coming after me on some, trumped up charges like they did to poor Rick Renzi.
Right, absolutely. I've got a question on the chat room I've got to get to before we have to go. The time's going by really fast. So this is from Big John. What's your take on the GOP not doing basically what we elected them to do, which was be conservative, things like TPP and not doing anything about Obamacare or budget? We pretty much told them, and we were very vocal. Their phones were blowing up during TPP, and the lobbyists on the Hill were telling us so. What's your take on them not listening to us at all?
Oh, boy. Is this mainly in reference to TPP, or is this broader? Because I think opinions on TPP. Fact that, the question is definitely about not doing anything about Obamacare, not doing anything to fix the budget or the deficits, and the trade deal. So, yes, it's partly about TPP, but about the other two things as well. Here's what I would do. Since becoming really good friends with Congressman David Schweikert, who I've been friends with now for many years, good friend, he's pretty much educated me a lot about how Congress works and what you can and can't get done. And he's my go-to guy on a lot of articles I write relating to the Congress. Get meetings set up with your congressman like Schweikert where they can go and explain all that. Because once you understand the whole process, you know better how to fight them and influence them. Because sometimes the approach that people take to these issues, which is just like, blunt, short messages that, don't really address the meat of it and don't get around all the nuances, it's easier for them to just blow you off, the congressman to just blow you off. So if people could set up like a town hall where you can sit there and get them to explain to you, this is how it works and this is what you guys really need to be doing.
So it's to get, okay, so I understand. So you think that it's more in the approach than it is because what we saw, or what it looked like to us during the TPP vote was that the lobbyists were winning basically because they had the money. And no matter how many phone calls we made or how many emails we sent or, how many Twitter impressions we got, they were, and we got close, it was really close. Some people changed their votes, but, I hear what you're saying is that getting the right approach and the right message down is definitely important because words are important and how we say it is important.
And combating the lobbyists, that's another question I need to talk to Schweikert about is, how do you combat these powerful, influential lobbyists? I mean, it drives me nuts. They go out and they hire, a former judge who knows everybody as a lobbyist or, a former powerful congressman as a lobbyist. How do you get around that?
I know, absolutely. Well, you know what, Rachel? We let you talk pretty much through our last break. And as much as I hate to say goodnight, I'm going to have to say goodnight to you. We loved having you on our show.
It's been a pleasure. This has been one of the funnest shows. Thank you.
Yes. And don't forget to visit stream.org, Rachel's news site that aggregates lots of great conservative news. Be back with you guys here next week at 8 p.m. on Thursday night at K98 Talk. And JD and Stacy will be up next. You got to stick around for that hilarity. They're always really funny. And keep your eye on the blog. We'll have more updates regarding our situation. We'll get more advice. We'll talk a little bit more. I'll link a little bit more to the Russian trolls. And we will see you guys here next week. So great being with you. Keep rising.
Sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic jam.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.